Hello again and welcome to the Warhammer 40k After Action Report. So today's After Action Report is going to be related to the latest battle report on the channel, which is the one of my Brotherhood of Nod Genestealer cult versus Alex Smith's Cadian 722nd Super Heavy Regiment. So first off, I want to say a huge thank you to Alex for arranging the game. So just so you guys know, I think I mentioned it in the battle report, but Alex is actually a subscriber, someone who I've met purely through doing the Mordian Glory channel, and it's the first person that I've sort of done, meet a fan battle report with, and it was an absolute blast. And I'm definitely open to the idea now of doing more sort of meet the Mordian fan battle reports, and that would be really, really good. I can't promise that I'll obviously be able to do every single one, and I'm sure there's going to be a few people who want to do it, but I'd definitely be open to doing a few more of them. I think it's a good idea. It's a great way for me to meet my fans, meet the community, and again, just I'm all about giving back to you guys, because without you guys, my channel would be nothing. So, if possible, I would love to do some more fan battles. So that was really cool, really interesting. I have met Alex once before when I went down to the Throne of Skulls Battle Brothers tournament at Warhammer World. I did a review on that a few videos ago. I said I was going to be there, and I said if there's any I always do this whenever I go to a tournament. I say if there's any fans, come and meet me. And he did. He came and said hello, and he watched my round 5. We had a pint, and we watched a round 5 game. So that's how I met Alex. So of course, I'm gonna have to. Yeah, that's how I met him. That's how I knew he was a sound guy. I knew he was a good guy. And so so we had a great battle. So I just want to say thank you, Alex. Thank you for being a subscriber. Thank you for being a loyal follower, and of course, good game. And thank you for the game as well. So let's take a look at the battle. So it was a good battle, and it was a relatively competitive battle as well in terms of the lists. I know. Me and Alex, we did chat back and forth. What do we want to bring? And I said to him, just bring something tough. I said, don't tone your list down. Don't don't try and make it soft or anything. I'm going to be bringing my cult. My cult is a competitive army. We're going to have a friendly game, but let's just have one of those games where you bring a good list, I bring a good list. And then there's no one ends up turning up with something that's a bit soft and gets smashed. No misunderstanding. Just bring what you want as a solid list. And the 3 super heavy guard list is a very solid competitive list. You do see it do the rounds at a lot of tournaments, because at the end of the day, 3 super heavies is hard to deal with. It is. Each one of those Bane Blades, or guard super heavies in general, each one of them is like facing the firepower of halfway between a regular knight and a Castellan. I mean, each one of those things has got at least 13 guns on it. You've got 6 heavy bolters at least, 2 las cannons, an auto cannon, Demarcher cannon, and a Baneblade cannon, which fires like 3 battle cannons. So it's an insane amount of firepower. It really is. I think it's like 11 barrels of hell or something. That's what they say. I think that's what it is. It's 11. Each one's got 11 guns on it at least, and can be upgunned even more so with more sponsons. So imagine you're facing a lot of firepower, and with Cadian and overlapping fields of fire. A lot of the time, those things are hitting on 3s, and they're rerolling 1s, because they're Cadian. So the list that Alex brought wasn't a rubbish list. It was a themed but powerful list, similar to my own. And I've got a video coming up, and it either already will be put up, or it'll be one that I'll put up after this video. I don't know which order this video is going to be up in, but which goes over my list in detail. So I'm not going to talk too much about my list in this battle report because I'm going to be discussing it in a full video. But the list I brought is an unusual due to the fact that there are a lot of vehicles in there. Most Genestealer cult players will tell you don't bring any cult vehicles, but I tend to find that they are powerful, and my list is pretty good. It's got a lot of punch, and it's got a lot of bodies. But it does struggle, as you saw, with those 3 super heavies. I mean, there's no point in sort of beating around the bush. You obviously need to have watched the battle report, but there is the turn 2 Genestealer cult turn was a very decisive turn, and that was the turn where I mind controlled the Shadow Sword. Now I know what some of you are going to be saying. Some of you are going to be saying, Alex shouldn't have pushed that Shadow Sword up so far. Well, let me tell you something. He was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He was, because he only had 40 or so infantry. So he almost used, and the Shadow Sword was a bit over. He didn't know what I was going to bring. And the Shadow Sword was a bit overkill this game. It was the weakest of all the super heavies in terms of what it was facing against on my list. So he was almost screening with one of his super heavies. And it would not have mattered where that Shadow Sword went. Because I was more than willing to drop down my Magus and use lying in wait, drop down 3 inches away from that Shadow Sword and mind control it. It would not have mattered where it was. So that Shadow Sword, one way or another, was going to get bloody mind controlled. I was willing to sacrifice a Magus to get mind control on that Shadow Sword. Maybe Alex wouldn't have lost it to the close combat stuff as well. That is worth considering. But one way or another, I was going to get to his super heavies. And I think the issue was the fact that he lost 2 in one turn. But when he lost 2, if he hadn't have lost 2, let's say he just lost 1, I think that game would have been way more in his favour. I think the fact that he lost 2, it didn't guarantee me that win, guys. I still had to draw Maelstrom cards. It didn't guarantee me that win. All that it did is it meant that the game was now on, which is what you actually saw. I know a lot of you have gone on watched that second turn and gone, well, the game's over. But it wasn't. It wasn't at all. If you continued watching the whole thing, you'd see that once I got rid of those, the 2 super heavies, Shadow Sword, mind controlled it, took out the Bane Blade, then took out the Shadow Sword in combat. Once those 2 super heavies were down, the Hellhammer just went nuts. Took out all the aberrants, and I actually never killed that Hellhammer, and I couldn't kill that Hellhammer. So the fact that I took out 2 didn't mean the Genestealer cult was guaranteed to win. It just meant we had a game. It was on. That was when, so it begins. That was when it was started. And one thing I want to say is, what a display from the Hellhammer. And I wasn't rolling particularly hot with that thing. That's just what an Imperial Guard Super Heavy can do when you take out the enemy's ability to deal with it. And that's what is the strength of the 3 Super Heavy list. The enemy might get 1. Hell, they might even get 2. And very rarely will they get 2 in one turn. But they might get 1 of your Super Heavies. They might get 2. But that 3rd Guard Super Heavy is going to tear shit up. And it did. Single-handedly took out the majority of my army. Single-handedly. Blasted things left, right and centre every turn. Got into combat. It really does show the power of them. So I know a lot of people have been saying, bring, Guard Super Heavies are back on the menu. They definitely are. I'd still never advocate just taking the 1. I think 1 Super Heavy is a bit... It's not going to do a lot. But 2 Super Heavies as a minimum in the Guard is going to do you a lot. It's going to get you a lot of mileage. For sure. Now, is there any any mistakes that were made inside, any sort of improvements? The only minor improvement I would say to to Alex is for his list is you could have done with a bit more screening. But at the end of the day, it kind of worked out because if you see, he was able to screen out he sacrificed his Shadow Sword, and if that had been any other army that didn't have mind control, that tactic would have worked. But the fact he had to sacrifice a few of his characters for screening as well, I think, if you just put it this way, if you drop the 4 autocannons, you can get an extra squad of infantry. That's the only change I would make to that list. Give yourself an extra layer where you don't have to sacrifice your characters. The Crusaders were fantastic, though. Would definitely say Crusaders were a good unit. But overall, it was an absolute blast. It was closer than you think. There was only, I think, five or so cards difference. I just had a couple of. I think it was a 9 or 10 point difference at the end, which in Maelstrom isn't a huge deal. Both sides scored very heavily. It was a 10 point difference, but Alex still got 16 points on Maelstrom, something crazy. So it wasn't like he did badly on the Maelstrom at all. He still did very well. And that just goes to show you the power of the list, and just goes to show you it was a high roller game. Every turn we were just picking cards that we could just do. Every turn. Both sides were laying in absolute haymakers into each other. And at the end of the day, it was a close game. The cult won on objectives. We did not win the battle because that super heavy would have, if it had gone on, would have been unstoppable. Nothing I could have done to it. So there you go, guys. Nice friendly game. Main things to take away from it, obviously, is it was a fan game. I want to do more of them. Main thing it was a competitive game as well, which was great. It showed off a competitive guard list. It did show off a competitive cult list. Now, there's one last thing I want to say. And it saddens me. It really does. Because if you've been keeping track, then you will have noticed that the Guard have been featured in every battle report, the last 3 battle reports. I'm trying to get more Guard on the channel. And the Guard have lost 3 times in a row. Which, I don't want to go too much into it, but it's kind of an indication that maybe they've been nerfed slightly too hard. Now, to be fair, the first game against the Cult, when Simon was in there, he definitely won that game. I won by a couple of points. I won by, that one clutch card, Kill the Unbelievers. But, got smashed against Matt, and the Cult were able to win on points again when I was playing Alex. So maybe, it's a bit of an indication that Guard have taken a bit of a beating. Maybe they've taken 1 nerf too many. But you know what that means, guys? You know what that means? I'm going to have to crack the cult out. I'm going to have to crack the Guard out. I think the Mordian 50s rifles are going to need to start showing some teeth. We're going to have to start getting me in control of some Guard on this channel. And we're going to have to break this losing streak, guys. We're going to have to break it. Can't have a Guard-focused channel where every bloody battle report the Guard lose. The Guard need to be winning. To be fair, there was a bit of a winning streak with the Guard on the channel, with the Steel Legion. I think it's just come full. It's balanced out, but we need to have some good Guard victories on here. Let's see what we can do. See if we can crack the Guard out, and let's see if we can get some Mordian wins on this channel. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. And of course, I'll see you guys next time.